figured out that match.
Thank you very much, D-Man. Yeah, well, Fnatic is not out of this one yet. They pull it back in with not the craziest picks or the smartest pick in ban, but just comfort picks coming in.
I'm so glad you said that because I completely agree. I felt like games 1 and 2, while Fnatic, I don't want to say they were uncomfortable, they were a little bit of uncharacteristic champions. Soaz in particular, he's very vocal. He's not a big fan of tanky tops. You know, he's not a big fan of those frontline bruiser type champions, tanks rather. Going back to Lulu, despite it not being super relevant in the meta, he's super comfortable. He's got so much experience on that champion. Orianna for Peke. I mean, when does he not deliver on that champion? And finally, we see the Tristana coming out as well, as opposed to that Vayne. Could have happened game 1. Reckless gets it game 3, manages to pick up the win.
See, I don't think the picks matter as much as what you do with them, and I like that Fnatic had a plan, and they used Soaz's Lulu really well in terms of speed-ups. This is something I mentioned in game 1 that I would like Zillion to do more in that game, just speed somebody up and then they go for the engage. How many times did we see Reckless just storm forward, jump in, and catch people out of position? Yeah, Froggen often had his ulti, but still had to blow it every time, and I really like the way Soaz took control of this game, both with his teleports, with the momentum, with speeding people up, flashing in. He showed that he mastered the champion because he cancelled so many dashes. Even Braum mid-air, he would just knock up with his ultimate. And Soaz is a player, like if you look at the player cam, you can see how a game is going with some players. And Soaz is definitely one of them. He was all grumpy and moody, and then it starts going well, and he's sitting there smiling, and he just plays so much better game.
Yeah, so he did get going on that Lulu, and a lot came from, they got the standard lanes this time, and they had the superior matchups that went very well for them.
Yeah, I really like that they actually had the normal laning phase. However, it's still the same thing though. The vision control in bottom is not enough. Alliance was taking control of this game again. Shook is impeccable, goes up top, gets the gank off. Shook is basically playing in the enemy jungle all the time, contesting buffs at one point, like goes from this buff to the other one. But Fnatic held on, and then at one point they turned a switch, and from playing in the lead, it was shown that Fnatic can actually still play this game.
Yeah, I actually felt in this game, Fnatic made far less mistakes than in games 1 and 2. You know, those individual misplays and missteps. And I actually felt Alliance may have been a tad over-aggressive. They may have been a little too hungry. They had 2 fairly one-sided wins in the previous matches, so it could be a testament from that. But I do think less mistakes from Fnatic allowed them to survive longer, allowed them to come away less burned, if that makes sense, than they have in the previous matches.
You do mention overconfidence, and we're actually going to take a look at a replay because Defisha was talking about those golden 5 minutes for Fnatic that got things going, and Krepo, you wanted to highlight this one.
Yeah, basically what's going to happen here is Nif is going to go for a play if we roll the clip right away. He's going to catch the Elstar, that's good, but there's a little miscommunication. Nif wants to go forward, Tabs wants to just poke him over the wall, gets Buster Shot out, and basically Nif is too far out right now, forces Tabs to flash in, and then Soaz just instigates the teleport right here, and this is what Fnatic needs. Like, if they can't bring Rekkles to the fights, they might as well bring the fights to Rekkles, and that's the way they're going to win these games. And again, they're fighting around bottom and around Dragon, and that will give them an advantage and vision control, and I really like that Fnatic's actually doing this more, because back in the day, the meta game, when you had aggressive top laners, you could trade a Dragon for a top tower and get some control in the top lane, but with all these like tanky utility top laners, I feel it's a lot better to invest all your attention and wards in the bottom side of the map around Dragon, around those objectives, and this time Fnatic did that eventually, but it still required a mistake from Alliance to actually get in that position.
Yeah, and those next few minutes, every time something happened, Reckless was involved as a central focal point for Fnatic. Again, stark contrast from game 1 and 2. He was split pushing on Vayne, trying to, or farming the side lanes on Vayne, trying to get to a relevant power point. On Lucian, he was unable to be the central focal point because by time they were starting to group, Alliance were too far ahead. So it was nice to see that when the drama and the action was happening, he was involved, he was picking up those last hits or the kill secures, and he managed to get powerful enough. Defisha said it best. When you go 5-0 before 20 minutes, you don't have a weak mid game because you're already in the late game.
Yeah, and by proxy, it was always Soaz coming down, because every time Rekkles got a pick or something happened, it was Soaz just speeding up either himself or Rekkles at the bottom side of the map. So Soaz really transitioned like that lead that he had in the top lane into a good teleport into bottom, and I really liked what they were doing, like the way they were playing their comp. You can argue whether you think the comp is better on one side or the other, but at least Fnatic knew what their comp had to do, and they pulled it out.
So let me throw this over to you guys. This time Fnatic had those golden 5 minutes, which allowed them to build up a very big lead, which maybe allowed them to make those little mistakes in the fights and in the communication they had before, but we couldn't notice it because they were that far ahead.
I would say that's a fair point. I mean, whenever you do build up a lead, whenever you do have an advantage, you can afford to have small mistakes and get away with them because of the advantage. However, I don't think the advantage was big enough for them to really do that. This time around, they just didn't make mistakes. Alliance in previous games that they've been behind, they fell behind to SK multiple times. They played passive, they played backwards, waited for the mistake and then punished. I actually feel like once Fnatic got that lead, they played more aggressively and they did move around that map, more so than what SK did in the semifinals.
At the same time though, Fnatic, they fell behind early again. Their rotations were good once they were 4,000 or 5,000 gold ahead, so they had enough pressure on Alliance to force them around the map, but before that, I still think Alliance is a smarter team and the better team, so next game, it's going to require an instance like we had this game where Fnatic takes a huge lead early in the game, because otherwise I think Alliance is going to control the pace again, and this time, they're not going to overreach.
Just also to be fair, I just want to finish that point. Excuse me. The laners were much stronger for Fnatic. Despite the fact they did fall behind and Alliance were a little more powerful, head-to-head lanes, stronger lane champions for Fnatic, and they get to a point where they can punish mistakes.
So in order to get to a game 5 here, so another Fnatic win, strong laners and standard lanes is the key, but they have to step up in those standard lanes.
Yeah, and please
Please.
place wards around Dragon. Please,
Wards
Fnatic.
win games.
Yes, they do, and they save lives. We're going to step away for just a minute, but when we come back, Fnatic has forced a game 4 in the finals as we get closer to crowning a champion. Stay tuned.